Check out Trump's borders are scare the crap out of Dr. Phil.
I can't contain what's coming across. I'm lucky if I'm catching 10%. He goes, they overwhelm the system with family groups and this humanitarian crisis. I have to take all my agents off the border, and the cartels do what they want then because there's nobody left on the border to control them. He goes, matter of fact, several times this past 2 years, several times, they took every single agent off the border in certain sectors. El Paso once took everybody off the border. RGV did it. Eagle Pass did it. Every single agent was pulled off patrol to deal with this overcrowding. Because this administration, what they're concerned with is the optics, right? They didn't want overcrowding. If there's overcrowding, then we can't keep saying this border is secure. When they had those 15,000 Haitians under the bridge that one day, and Fox drone called that was a bad day for this administration. So they've only cared about the optics. So every time they got overcrowded, they bring everybody in to process and release quickly. And when you did that, the criminal cartels have a field day because they know they can cross the border with nobody in their way.
Well, they've described that situation to me where they've said, take a stretch of the border and they'll bring a huge group of people crossing at A and a huge group of people crossing at Z and draw all the border agents to those two areas. And then they do a run right up the middle with their valuable cargo. That's where they'll bring their drugs. That's where they'll bring their trafficking. They come across completely unimpaired. They just walk right through then because all the agents are pulled to the two ends and they walk right up the middle. Nobody touches them. Nobody bothers them.
And that's why I say the criminal cartels have operational control of the border. They create gaps by doing this. And CBP is useless because of policy administration. The cartels know what they're doing. That's why they're multi-billion-dollar business. So they control our southern border. But it's not going to be for long.
Talk about their use of social media. Do you have a plan to shut that down, to control that in some way? Because they're using it to recruit American teenagers.
Well, I was excited to see Mark Zuckerberg down to Mar-a-Lago. Maybe that discussion needs to start because you're right. And they're using social media. They've been using it at least 4 years. They probably used it before. I'm not a social media guy, but when I saw Mark Zuckerberg going to Mar-a-Lago, I was hoping that we're going to have that discussion. I've had that discussion with the president that we need to do something. Look, I know a lot of people locked out of social media for making comments, whether it's about supporting Trump or, a lot of people are locked out of social media for things they say. We can't lock these cartels out of social media for criminal conspiracy, alien smuggling and drug smuggling. And a lot of these young kids, they don't know any better. So they'll go down, they'll make a quick $3,000 by transporting this guy from here to here. But what they don't know, and they may think it's just I'm helping this illegal alien for getting a better life. But you don't know. Is he a public safety threat? You don't know. Is he carrying fentanyl? You don't know. Is he a no-inspected terrorist? You don't know. So you don't know who you're transporting. Chances are you're transporting someone very dangerous. So these young kids get tied up in this to make a quick buck, and they're going to ruin their lives. Because alien smuggling is a felony. And I've seen a lot of young kids ruin their lives over this.
The Arizona sheriffs told me that they're using this to recruit these teenagers, and they'll tell some of them, I'll pay you X amount if you don't go through a checkpoint, and I'll pay you 2X if you do go through a checkpoint. And if they want to search, run. Because they'll chase you for a while and then they'll break it off and you'll be fine because they want to pull all the guards onto the chase because 3 cars back in the line is what they're really wanting to get across the border. So they'll put 3 or 4 illegal immigrants in a car, get the teenager to run, so they chase that, and 3 cars back, they've got several $1 million worth of drugs that they're bringing across the border, and now they just flag them on through. So they have strategies for this, and they had one 16-year-old who ran and hit a woman, cut the car in half, killed her. I interviewed her daughter, and she said it's terrible, but these kids can make $4,000 or $5,000 by going and picking up these immigrants and bringing them across the border. It seems to me that this is really insidious that they're now recruiting these kids who are naive and don't see the downside. I mean, it's very intoxicating to say, oh, I can go make $5,000, $4,000 in a couple hours. It just seems to me to be something that we really should focus on.
And that's why the cartels are such a danger. People don't understand. The cartels, they're just not a bunch of dopers. They're not a gang. They're very sophisticated. They're like a Fortune 500 company. Some of these cartels are now in over 40 countries around the globe. I mean, not only do they got military-grade weapons, they have the most sophisticated IT equipment. And like I said, they've learned social media. They've learned the game. And the problem is U.S. law enforcement needs to keep up with them.
Yeah.
Need to keep up with their tactics, need to keep up with their technology. The Mexican militaries try to take them out, and cartels win every time. And even when they do arrest a major player in the cartels, many times the Mexican government are forced to release them because they do so much damage to the city. That is that is a definition of terrorism. They've killed judges, they killed journalists, they killed politicians to keep control of that nation. And that's why I think it's going to take President Trump to take them out.
Is it a military strategy to take them out? Do they get to their funds? How do you go about it?
I think you do it all. I think you chase the money. You take their money, you take their power, because that's how they buy off military. That's how they buy off law enforcement. That's how they buy off politicians, get their money. But as far as dismantling the cartels and taking them out of business, it's going to take the U.S. Mexico, I don't know if they have the willpower to do it. They certainly, if they do, they failed for the last 3 decades. But I'm not mincing words when I say a lot of the military and law enforcement and Mexican government are corrupt. That's just a fact. When we have vetted units, we work with HSI. We work very closely with Mexican authorities, and we vet the people that we work with very thoroughly. But even the vetted units, we don't tell them everything. It's just too high of a risk for our agents. So there's a lot of corruption in Mexico. It's going to take the U.S. It's going to take our special ops. It's going to take our intelligence specialty to find these people and destroy them. Hopefully, we can work with Mexico to do that. But I don't see Mexico allowing it. And that's something that President Trump's going to have to work out with the president of Mexico. You would think after so many politicians, journalists have been murdered in Mexico, they want to do something. But we'll see.
Yeah. What is the biggest threat to us right now from what's happened with this open border? Where do you think we're most vulnerable in America?
I think the terrorism aspect scares me the most. And, I don't have a lot of respect in Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, but he agrees with me that the southwest border is a huge terrorist vulnerability. He's testified numerous times. He sees more red flags now than ever before.
Well, let's take a look at that, because we see here that 300 plus were stopped with names matching known suspected terrorists on the watch list, 183,055 with criminal charges pending, criminal convictions arrested by ICE, and 178,508 with criminal charges pending and convictions that were removed by ICE. So if that's how many are being stopped and caught, you got to wonder how many got away. And that's who's in the country. Where are these people now?
We have no idea. As far as the people, the gotaways, there's no footprint on these people, right? They weren't fingerprinted. They weren't vetted. There's no release documents. So these are people we're going to have a hard time finding, but we'll find them. And look, they just released thousands of people from Afghanistan in prisons whose their sole purpose in life is to destroy this nation. And, back after 9/11, I was in D.C., and all these different programs we created to prevent another 9/11. Let's make sure people can't get a plane ticket to come to this country. Let's make sure they can't get a visa, either student or visitor, or whatever, to come to this country to do us harm. So we created all these vetting processes. You got the no-fly list. You got the FBI screening database. You got the visa security program, which I used to run as the ICE director. Anybody who wants a visa, they get through this vetting process. And if you got some derogatory information, you're not getting a visa to come to this country. We prevented thousands of people from getting a visa. All these programs worked pretty good after 9/11. Plus, we got the DOD intelligence database. All these programs worked pretty good for the last 2 decades after 9/11. But nowadays, with open border the way it is, what terrorist is going to put himself in a position to try to get a plane ticket or a visa when he knows there's some vetting procedures in place, regardless how bad they are? He knows there's a vetting procedure in place when he can simply get to Mexico, pay the cartels a little bit extra money, and be a getaway. And that scares the hell out of me.
You put a fine point on that before, because So people understand if they come across the border and they see a green uniform, that's U.S. Brown is Texas, right?
Mhm.
So if they see a green uniform and it's U.S., then the policy is they process them, give them a date, turn them loose. And if somebody that can do that is hiding and avoiding even them, they've got something serious to hide. They don't even want a superficial vetting. And there's 2 million of those
2 million that we know of.
That means we got 2 million that are very likely bad actors in this country. How many of those do you feel like you guys know, generally speaking, where they are? I mean, are they clustered in Chicago?